everybody, and welcome to Holy Moses Take a Look, the podcast about terrible books. I'm Sheena C. James, joined as always by my beautiful boyfriend Paul.
Hi.
And today we're going to be reading chapters 10 and 11 of Irene It Is Late. Still keeping on trucking. Quick bit of news before we start though. You may have noticed we are not on SoundCloud anymore. We're not going to keep updating on SoundCloud for a while. Right now we're going to be on YouTube and on the Internet Archive. You can find us at Holy Moses Take a Look for both of those things. And really it's just because to keep updating on SoundCloud we would have to pay, and we don't have money for that. So, might open up a Patreon someday. Probably not until we finish this first book though.
We should just set up an RSS feed, like either on Libsyn or Podbean or whatever.
We could, you actually had to pay for those too, after a while.
Oh.
Yeah, so YouTube and Archive are free all the time, forever. I figure it's just a better way to do things. But, when we went back to the book, though, when we last left it, Irene had her baby, who I suppose is the current owner of Dunfern Mansion now, back in chapter 1. But she had a baby and is now horribly sick and, like, feverish and crazy and stuff and bedridden. And Sir John, being a class act as always, listened into her weird feverish ramblings, took it to heart, and then went through all her shit. Lucky for him, he was right. She was totally, like, in love with another dude. So, that's the thing. He wrote her a letter, which is not good.
It's only taken 10 chapters to get to the central drama of the story, I'm assuming.
Yeah, like, she should have gotten here around about chapter 3.
Like, all the other stuff, the Dilworths disappearing and dying, the fucking preamble with the tutor, Oscar Otwell, all ancillary, all stuff that could have been summarized pretty succinctly in a few chapters, and all this, like the wedding and the events surrounding the wedding, all of it mercilessly dragging on.
Oh, yeah.
And now we reach an actual dilemma that the story now needs to address in chapter 10 of 19.
Yeah. It's been pretty harrowing. A whole bunch of nothing, which I suppose is just kind of Amanda McKittrick-Ross's MO. Is just writing a whole bunch of nothing, just creating these long-winded descriptions for things to try and create like beautiful writing, but it's just really florid purple prose.
No, even purple prose can have some substance. This is just straight up bad.
It is bad, but it's bad partly because of how purple it is.
It's bad because it's badly put together.
Yeah. And the story is stupid.
It's an attempt at purple prose. It's desperately trying to emulate purple prose, but it's not. It's failing just because of how poorly constructed it is.
So what are we gonna call that? I mean, it's like indigo prose.
Indigo away. It's poople prose. Because I am witty and creative and subversive, you know. Yeah, it's a wonder we haven't packed it in already and just moved on to something else.
Well, I mean, we may as well finish it, you know, if we started it. And anyway, our next book we're going to read on Halloween, so.
5 minutes in and we still haven't started. Let's get this train wreck over with.
Okay. Chapter 10. When dreading the light of day, contentment hath fled. Imagination oftentimes proves a forerunner to reality. Corners of horror shelter themselves within the castles of the queenly, the palaces of the powerful, the monuments of the mighty, and the cottages of the caretaker. But sunshine brings universal joy wherever its beams are wont to dazzle, and often allays the anxiety which precedes its appearance. Oh my god, that was all one sentence! No!
They're all one sentences.
No, they're not! Not
well,
all of them.
Most of her paragraphs are.
Well, I know, but that one had 3 semicolons. God, that was horrible. Also, I really, really hate that thing she does with the alliteration. You know, palaces of the powerful, the monuments of the mighty. It's like, oh, God. Stop it.
It does feel like she secretly wants to write for Power Rangers.
Yeah.
Or
something like it, yeah. It's just really bad. Also, I love the cottages of the caretaker. It's like, one of these things is not like the others. That's a noun.
You can imagine Skeletor, like, saying some of this stuff. The palaces of the powerful, the monuments of the mighty. You know, that's a crap Skeletor voice, you understand.
Oh, when you add now it's a papyrus voice.
I suppose.
Because I don't actually remember how Skeletor laughed. I don't think he did that, though.
In any case, she's true to formula. It's proceeding the story with a paragraph full of bollocks.
Yeah, a sentence paragraph full of bollocks.
We don't need to try and figure out what it means, because as she's proven before, like, again, true to formula, the first paragraph is also a lot of bollocks. So
it's utterly irrelevant.
Yeah. Speaking of utterly irrelevant, let's read on.
Great heaven, murmured Sir John, as the tutor's note fell from his nervous grasp. Am I blind to touch or truth? Am I at last to labor under the fact that my wife loves another? She who only some months since protested her innocence in such strains as to cause the most doubtful to stay alarm. Here is the ring, and there lies the note of him who claims to be not only her tutor, but suitor. Why did she accept the former and cause the latter to be written?
Because you're an overbearing asshole, and when you confronted her about it before, what is it? Yeah, he got really shitty about Oscar Otwell in one of the early chapters for when she was merely talking to him, you know?
Yeah, she was literally they were just talking and he made a big stink about it and let his whole evening get ruined because of a bunch of bullshit. Also, he was angry not just because of the idea that she was in love with someone else, but that she was in love with someone else who was not rich.
Yeah. Dunfern's got his priorities straight.
Yeah, his only redeeming quality is his money, and he knows it. That's really sad. What a pathetic man. And he's the protagonist.
Well, yeah, I guess so.
That's awful. Then the date, just 1 month exactly before our marriage, and how I pined for it to elapse, whilst another would eagerly have prolonged it. Oh, Irene, false and low woman, think you that any longer I can own you as wife, or treat you with the respect the wife deserves? Sir John, ever open to forgiveness. What?
Really?
Tried hard to master the dreadful spirit of jealousy, which arrived at last at its highest point. If he could feel convinced that his wife's correspondence with her tutor ceased after her marriage, believing if still it continued that other proofs of their dastardly plots would be forthcoming.
They had
Thrusting his hand... Huh?
They had a relationship. They didn't try to catch the pigeon. They didn't try to cheat at Wacky Races. That's a reference that some of you will get if you watch any Hanna-Barbera cartoons.
I don't.
Wacky Races as a kid, they had Dick Dastardly and Muttley. And he had a weird, funny moustache and a purple hat.
I am aware of that, but I never actually watched it.
He had his own cartoon called Catch the Pigeon, and it's like, catch the pigeon, catch the pigeon, you know. He was called Dick Dastardly. Dastardly plots, come on.
I get that. I've heard the name, but I've never actually watched the show.
But it's not like they it's not like they plotted to make him miserable. It's, they were...
Yeah.
They just had a relationship under his nose.
Before the marriage.
Yeah, before the marriage.
Yeah. Okay. Thrusting his hand again into the aperture from which he took the 2 tributes of his wife's tutor, there appeared nothing to arouse further suspicion save a Christmas card written in the same bold hand. The lines were these: "Accept my warmest greeting, friendship, and love. Thou art my charming Irene, pet and dove. Although another claims thee for a time, I trust to call you someday ever mine. Oh, pray for parting soon with fettered chains, to live and move regardless of those reins, that bind your Christmas sprigs of worldly woe to him whom you have hated long ago." Ah! 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 Oh, that's awful! I'd have just sent it back to him with "learn to write" written all over it. That's horrible.
Yeah, that's
the worst thing.
So I guess I guess there's no accounting for Irene's taste.
She likes him stupid.
Mm.
This was the second effusion of Otwell's, and must have been received by Lady Dunfern since her marriage, and though he who held it clutched in his trembling hand, why did she deposit this card amongst her valuables, had she not held it as treasure of priceless worth? Nothing more was wanting now to convince the distracted husband of his wife's infidelity. Depositing the note, card, and ring in the drawer whence he had taken them, Sir John at once proceeded to Lady Dunfern's bedroom and found her awake. Being a nobleman of sterling worth, really, and one on whose word the greatest dependence was always manifested, he could scarcely fail to inform her of the great and trying scene he had just come through. Struggling, however, manfully from mentioning anything that would serve to retard her recovery, he moved towards the bed on which she lay, and before a word was uttered by him, he suddenly staggered and fell. What? Why would he suddenly be all messed up if...
It's God striking him down for being a naughty boy. I don't know.
You're a snoop. I will smite thee.
Yeah, happened in Bible,
in Bible.
In Holy Bibli, somewhere. It probably didn't. It'd be funny if that happened, if it was recorded, maybe in one of Paul's letters to the other ones. It's like, and lo, the Lord spake, saying, "You're a dirty Snoopy boy, go hence and get thee over
get in the sea.
Your wife, get thou in the sea."
Who could then perceive the wan and haggard appearance of him who apparently lay lifeless without being totally terror-stricken? Could she, whom he bathed in golden comfort, behold this outstretched form with calm silence? Surely not. Instantly ordering a maid to send for Dr. Doherty, the false invalid lay back on her pillow. False? How is she a false invalid? She's actually been sick. The hell?
False as in...
Appearing not...
Not false as in false invalid. False as in, oh, she's a naughty girl because she cheated on John Dunford because, for whatever reason, Amanda, hates Irene.
That's really bad writing.
She's got... I'm noticing this, spicy undercurrent of misogyny now that it's come out that she was, unfaithful.
Mm-hmm.
It's at every opportunity, Amanda's like, oh, you... bitch.
Yeah, basically. I mean, she really hates other women, I think.
She must have experienced other people who are like this, or heard of people who are like this, or she's emulating characters from other novels in her writing. I don't know. There's this. I'm trying to picture what's got Amanda's goat to the point where she's chewing out... Yeah, to the point where she's chewing out this woman, and not the grumpy old bastard who married her.
Oh. Okay, the false invalid lay back on her pillow, appearing not much concerned. On the doctor's arrival, he applied restoratives, but without the desired effect. Then he ordered his instant removal to his bedchamber, where every care and watchfulness was extended him by Rachel Hyde. It was nearly 2 hours ere he manifested the remotest symptoms of animation, and on inquiry...
Just say he got up.
I know.
Just say he woke up. Oh my god. It's like I hate how she personifies feelings as well. It's like, just say he felt jealous, you know. You don't have to be like, oh, the dog of jealous feeling rose up in his stomach, you know. It's, or whatever the fuck, you know. It's I'm just, I couldn't think of a proper example off the top of my head, but she does this thing. It's like the inner goddess thing in 50 Shades. Like, she's like, but, you know, but less weird and just more difficult to read, you know. Amanda keeps like personifying feelings and describing them in ways that are not economical as far as writing goes. They take up more. She takes up more space to say a character felt like this, you know, rather, you know, instead of what she does.
Mm-hmm. And she doesn't even like take that time to show instead of telling. Like, she'll just tell you for half a paragraph.
Yeah, that's a problem with the writing. You know, it's just, you know, tell, don't show. Anyway,
Okay, right.
Symptoms of animation.
And on inquiry, the doctor pronounced the sudden shock he had nervously sustained to be grave indeed. Sir John lay in an unconscious condition until next morning, when his first inquiry was relative to his son. Gradually regaining strength and venturing in the doctor's absence out of bed, he walked slowly into his wife's room to make personal his recovery. He looked pale and much annoyed, and could only with difficulty refrain from acquainting her of what he had in store to communicate. Each day found both invalids, just and unjust, rapidly recovering, and in a few weeks both completely restored to health and strength. Lady Dunfern could not help noticing the strange and frozen manner of her husband since the eve of his illness. At first she was inclined to fear his approach, but gradually she felt convinced he was slightly affected with a mild form of insanity, and making minute inquiries from the oldest inhabitants in the neighborhood and adjoining village as to the accuracy of her fears, she was informed that such never existed amongst his ancestors, so far as they knew or heard. That was a useless few sentences.
Well, the whole thing is just wasting time, as far as I'm concerned.
Was it strange that Sir John felt a changed man towards her, who was so fully charged with deceit? Would it have been acting in accordance with his conscience to overlook her wily artifice? Could the once fond and loving husband, the brave and gallant knight, still trusted her, whom he felt convinced would bring a world of disgrace, not alone upon himself, but upon one in after years he trusted would proudly sustain the honorable reputation in his race? Tune in next week for inexplicably racist Victoria novels. Find out next time.
She really hates Irene.
Yeah.
She, like, Amanda really doesn't as far as I understand this book, the only bad thing Irene has done has not been transparent with John Dunfern about her feelings.
Well, I mean, she had an affair.
Well, yeah, but, like...
That's kind of bad.
It is bad. It is bad. But the way Amanda is writing about it makes her sound like some...
Sorry, the way Amanda was...
It's bad, but, like, the way Amanda is writing about it makes it sound like... makes it sound like Irene did something, like, particularly... fiendish and unpleasant and willfully to upset John, and I'm not seeing that.
No.
I mean, it could be poorly communicated, but it's like there's the events that Amanda has described in the writing, and then we're told how everyone feels about it, and that it feels like there's a disconnect between the two.
Okay, so, where were we? I had a bit of a microphone mix-up, so sorry about that.
I was saying there's a disconnect between... I think I finished my point before we got cut. You're going to have to listen back and check when you edit, but, like... as far as I'm concerned, there is a disconnect between what Irene actually did, what Irene has described as being done,
Wait, you mean
how characters feel about
Amanda.
it, and how Irene's writing about it.
Ross. Yeah.
Yeah, Amanda's writing about it. Because, you know, what I recall of the plot is that Irene had an affair, but Amanda is writing about it like she did this to deliberately hurt John and to make her sound like particularly fiendish and vile, and is taking every opportunity to take a dig at her, when all she's done is be unfaithful a little bit. And, like, that's not to say that infidelity is bad. It's just, it's weird how vicious Amanda's being about it.
I mean, that's not to say it isn't bad, because it is bad.
Yeah, sorry, I got muddled there.
Yeah, that's okay. Let's see. No matter in what light he viewed her conduct now, he was brought to loathe her very look, and was fully determined to shut her in from the gaze of an outside world, or the cunning tricks of a trifling tutor. He was resolved, so far as lay in his power, to treat her with the conduct she merited, and never again allow her to be persuaded to postpone the visitation of his anger by her villainous, pitiful appeals. What the fuck, dude? After serious thought, Sir John began to act. He was inclined to think delay would be dangerous, and on approaching his breakfast table one morning, soon after his recovery, he hinted to his housekeeper that he wished a private interview with her after his morning repast. This Rachel punctually obeyed. Seeing her master's trembling hand twitch the tips of his beard, she feared something dreadful must surely be disturbing his peace of mind, and commanding her to lock the door lest they should be interrupted, he informed her of all that had happened. Rachel, ever ready to sow doubt in the mind of her master regarding his wife, what?
Rachel ever ready to
sow doubt in the mind of her master. That is the opposite of what I was saying. Okay. Ever ready to sow doubt in the mind of her master regarding his wife, manifested her want of surprise by relating some incidents which occurred under her notice. Nothing, however monstrous, could astonish Sir John at this time regarding his wife's movements. Monstrous. Damn. And informing Rachel of his intention, he ordered the key of one of the rooms that yet had been shut against the entrance of Lady Dunfern. Hastening to fulfill her master's orders, Rachel returned the mighty key and handed it to Sir John, who moved to the door, and thrusting the rusty key into its aperture, succeeded with great difficulty in effecting an entrance. Rachel followed, and both entered, locking the heavy panelled oak door from within. "This," said Sir John, "is the room of correction, the room of death." What the fuck, dude? "It defies escape or secretion. It has been so long as I remember held in abhorrence by my late lamented parents, and so far as I can understand, by many of my ancestors." What the fuck? First of all, the lady who shared its midst was a born imbecile, the eldest daughter of my great-great-grandfather, Sir Sidney Dunfern. She was nursed and tenderly cared for within these walls for a period of 36 years, and through the instantaneous insanity of her ward, was marked a victim for his murderous hand. Yes, it has been related that during midnight, when she was fast asleep, he drew from that drawer, here Sir John pointed to the wardrobe, a weapon of warlike design, and severed her head almost from her body, causing instant death. What the fuck, dude? It was not known until next day about noon that anything extraordinary had happened. It was first detected by Sir Sidney himself, who became alarmed at not having seen Wade, the ward's name was Hector Wade, as usual at 10 o'clock, and tapping at the door was surprised to hear some noise issue from within. Being of a hasty temper, he became indignant at the ward's indifference, and calling loudly, finally gained admittance. The murderer had her stretched on this floor, and every article capable of being removed piled upon her corpse. Horrified at such a sight, Sir Sidney became wild with grief, and at once handed the pitiful lunatic over to those in authority. What the fuck? This is so coming out of nowhere! The hell?
So, we've moved from, like, trite romance to horror?
I don't know.
Is this Game of Thrones?
Game of Thrones is better written than this.
Well, it depends on whether you're talking about the books or the show.
Oh! The books are really good.
Brutal. Slay.
Let's see. The next inhabitant doomed to share in its dull delight was Kathleen, wife of my beloved grandfather, a beautiful woman whose portrait you now see. She, I am sorry to relate, proved more an accomplice than the honored wife of him who added so much to the welfare of those who now benefit by his great economy. More an accomplice than the honored wife of him who... What does that mean?
So, I don't know, but why are we...
Why are we hearing about his murder room?
Yeah, the Death Cave, or whatever the fuck you call it.
The hand of death visited her here, likewise with its separating touch. The last person inhabiting its cheerless enclosure was a distant relative of my mother, a gentleman named Rodney Rupert, who fell from the path of virtue and trod the field of vice until confirmed within this prison of pathetic account, and who in a moment of passion ended his days with that pistol which hangs on yonder hook, and on that bed all these lay, and on which can be made use by a traitoress of no mean account either. What the fuck? He's gonna dub Irene in there. In the death room. The hell?
There's no precedent.
Yeah, there's no reason to be doing this. Oh my god.
Well, I that too, but I was more thinking, like, narratively, like... This isn't even a plot twist. This is a fucking...
This is a sharp left into Crazyville.
Yeah, this is like a direct 90-degree turn into the death
yes.
This is like tonal whiplash, but in the bad way.
He literally has a death room in his house.
It's like, oh, I'm so sad that my wife is cheating on me. Oh.
They're gonna lock her up like Elizabeth Bathory.
Get me the key to the death room.
And then he's gonna describe all the horrible things that happened in there.
This is death metal.
Also, it's like, he keeps a pistol hanging on the hook on the wall. He keeps a sword in the cabinet. He just leaves them there.
It's official. This guy is like... I bet this guy visits... I don't know.
Like, insane asylums.
One of the Well, I was more thinking, like, Chan boards. This guy's too edgy for me, you know?
Okay. Sir John then proceeded to give orders to have the room made as comfortable as its scanty furniture permitted, which consisted only of one small table, one chair, and an old-fashioned wardrobe with several small drawers attached. One dressing table and washstand, all of which were magnificently carved oak and richly paneled. There was only one large window, made up of iron bars and a multitude of small panels of glass, not larger than 3 inches square, and all of equal dimensions, and inside this window were strong bars of iron, looped on every side and firmly fastened. Scanty furniture? Really?
I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Hell, that's more than I got in my room. I mean, iron bars on the window doesn't sound nice, but I mean, only what? What are you talking about?
It's like, this is the death room.
It's just a nice little bedroom, except for the iron bars on it and the weapons.
Yeah. Look at this old-fashioned wardrobe. It's gorgeous in the death room.
Yes.
You know. Look at this magnificently carved oak. It's delightful.
Room.
In the death room.
The cocoa matting which served as a carpet, parts of which were grim with gore. What the fuck, dude? Tear out the carpets! How long? What the hell, dude?
Probably smells
I know!
Really bad,
was almost worn past recognition. There were all the articles this badly lighted room contained, save several oil paintings of enormous size. No, these were all the articles this badly lighted room contained, save several oil paintings of enormous size. On the whole, it presented the appearance of a private prison. It doesn't sound like one. I mean, again, iron bars on the window? Sure. Literally everything else? Not so much. You don't usually get a gun in a prison.
I don't think Amanda did very much research.
No.
It's a very, very interesting idea of what a prison should be.
Yeah, you'd think it would be a little more austere than that.
Yeah, like, I've yet to see magnificently carved oak in any prisons.
An icy atmosphere pervaded through the room, damped with an odor of something inert, which Sir John believed would be rendered extinct in the presence of a fire. Rachel, after receiving orders and confidence from her master, set matters to right by lighting a fire, dusting the old and much worn furniture, airing the bedclothes, etc., being strictly charged to admit, on no pretense whatever, now at any time, any member of the household or visitor to the mansion. When everything was in perfect readiness for the reception of its guest, Sir John directed Rachel to bring her ladyship into his presence. What could have astonished Lady Dunfern more on being ushered into a room which never before was open to her inspection? Nothing save the information her husband eagerly awaited her to receive. On being informed of her vast deception, which was proved beyond doubt, and to which she felt wholly incompetent to reply, she was absolutely dumb-stricken. It required no further questioning now concerning her husband's recent strangeness of manner and rigid coolness with which he was forced to treat her, whom he scorned to call wife. "You, madam," said he, "have by your conduct, both before and after marriage, forced me to keep you a prisoner within these walls so long as you live or I exist." "No! She has not forced you to do anything, mister. The divorce exists."
Yeah, like... I mean... Or you could just talk about your problems and resolve them and part ways amicably. Force drama
I know,
much?
or even just ditch her and say, "Fine, I hope you're happy with your rotten little tutor. Bye, you'll get nothing from me."
It's like there are other women in the world who will appreciate your money
Yeah.
more. And they might even like your gross personality.
Yeah. Maybe a man of Richard Grosswell.
Yeah, well, yes.
"You have not failed to act the infamous by kissing me with the lips of a Judas. You have at last plunged me into deepest disgrace, not alone me, but him whom you should have liberated to succor and chastise. Mocking wretch, your foul deeds shall have plenty of scope here for improvement, and a prisoner you shall be during the remainder of your life." Sir John, without another word, glided from before the presence of her who once was treated as a goddess by him, not really, and
really?
Turning the...
I'm trying to recall a time where she was treated as a goddess, and I can't recall. Like, anyway, go ahead.
And turning the great key that locked her forever from his view, handed it to Rachel, who was to have sole admittance to and full charge of his wife. She's got to take care of that little hand. All alone in that big old room.
Just skittering about. Maybe she can squeeze through the iron bars.
That's how she gets out. When left to herself in the ghostly and spacious closet of crippled right, which until now she never dare approach, Lady Dunfern, instead of shewing sighs of grief, which Sir John felt assured must burst from its midst, gloried in being aloof from the occasional rebukes to which she was subject, whilst occupying the rooms free to her access. She would now have full opportunity of guiding her thoughts to self-advantage or disadvantage. She felt free to try and act as she in any case would have done, regarding very little the shame brought on her husband by her intrigue with the tutor, whom she simply idolized, never once casting a thought on her infant, knowing well it would be passionately cared for. So she doesn't give a fuck.
Which is a
little weird.
Weird. Like I'd be if I married someone and they
locked you up.
Tried to what is it? Let's say I did cheat on someone. And they locked me up and had charge of my care and someone else. I'd be terrified. I'd be like, I can't trust anyone at this point. You know, I've lost so much agency. Like, she's not fussed at all.
I probably...
Is she gonna...
As soon as they said, "You're gonna live in this room forever alone and you're just gonna be a prisoner in my house," I probably would have killed them. And then run away. Just saying.
I bet she's gonna turn into fucking Dick Dastardly now, like... I bet she actually is gonna turn into, like, a criminal mastermind.
I know, she's actually gonna do something bad now. I mean, she did a bad thing, but only, like... As far as bad things go, I wouldn't say it's evil so much as just disrespectful.
Yeah, this is John Dunfern's got this weird notion of honor. Like, I don't mind
cheating's a bad thing to do, but holy shit, this is overreacting in the highest degree. Okay. Oceans of thought took hold on her as she vacantly viewed the damp and darkened walls of her monstrous cell. Oh, hush, it's a normal room. Now and then moving forward to inspect the many paintings of great and historic worth that hung from their lofty support, mostly all more or less resembling him who probably should ere long add to their number. Lady Dunfern allowed the weeks and months to pass unheeded, until afforded ample opportunity of resorting to some means that might not alone free her from such death-like surroundings, but snap the chain of obligation in two which presently connected her with the husband she cared not for. She longed for the hour of flight from the dismal shelter under which she was doomed to dwell. She yearned for the days that had fled, and more so from her who had shared in their pleasure. She pined for him whom she had so long lived to adore, and hesitated not to do so still. Could she only acquaint him of her husband's cruelty, how he might assist her in effecting her release? What could be done, she frequently asked herself, to brighten her future only a little? Could she possibly escape? She feared not. Every 2 hours that villainous woman entered during the day, since first she was snared in a net of revenge, and compelled to remain within its enclosures of shivering fear. Still, she never lost hope of flight, and cheered with the thought of future stratagem, she tried to remain somewhat consoled. Villainous? Wow, that's it's overreacting a little bit.
Like I said, she hates
I
him.
know, it's like, bad relationships, sure. Irresponsible, disrespectful, okay. Like a bad person, maybe. Villainous is a little much, though, I think.
Yeah, considering it's fucking John Dunfern who locked her in the fucking death room.
He has a death room to begin with, and that's a problem already. And he stuck her in there forever. That's like beyond shitty. That's double shitty.
And Rachel's just going along with it like she has no problem.
She
with it
doesn't.
at all.
She's evil. She hates Irene for some reason.
And yet Irene is the villain.
Yeah, somehow. I don't really know how that works. Anyway, that's the end of chapter 10.
But that's the end of... Yeah, like, again, a chapter which doesn't have any, like, elegant cadence to it and just ends abruptly. I mean... Oh, God. So, that was exciting. The climax, the reveal, and that took a very horror turn for a moment. We're doing the next chapter.
Chapter 11. The trickling tide of fortune sometimes ebbs slowly. It meets with occasional barriers of boisterous worth, and reaches its haven of intent too often with obstruction. Its waters drip on the proud and humble, the mighty and pitiful, the meek and unholy, and refuse to overlook even the weary and careworn confined in the cell. It ceases not to store within its waters of wonder intricate windings of wealth and poverty, triumph and torture, joy and misery, and does not hesitate at any time to safely deposit its various burthens on the numerous beaches along which it must pass. The fuck? What a bunch of garbage.
I get... Yeah, it's like, the something shitty metaphor. It meets with B of B, because alliteration. Its waters drip X and Y. The X and Y. The X and Y. She does this. You could make a fucking bingo card out of this. A very small bingo card.
I'm tempted to,
She has very few devices that she employs in these opening
I'm tempted to make, like, a bot, that'll just sift through a book and make an Amanda McKittrick-Ross version of it.
That could take... That sounds like...
It's actually not that hard to make this kind of writing imitation bots, because it's like, remember that the computer-generated recipe?
I suppose.
Yeah. I could probably do it in a few weeks. When almost a year of Lady Dunfern's private imprisonment was about drawing to a close, she was beginning to partly believe the truth of her husband's dogmatic remarks. She had strongly been endeavouring during this time to arrive at some possible means of communication with Marjorie Mason, her much-loved maid, whose services Sir John still retained. Who the hell is this? But every endeavour she yet formed proved absolutely vain. She often thought, had she been attended by any of the household staff, only her on whom she could dream and rely, She might have made good her escape long since, but being watched and visited so regularly by Rachel Hyde, she felt her task much more difficult of performance than at first imagined. Sometimes she would bring her table close to the window and mount on its shaky leaf, then step into the great window-sill, pull out her handkerchief, and rub the puny panes to try and catch a glimpse of nature, and probably chance to see some of the servants pass. This heavily barred window stood considerably high, and if viewed from a distance, or even from the ground adjacent, seemed small in consequence. It was therefore very difficult for her to recognize one menial from another, yet she often imagined she could not be mistaken in perceiving a form in the garden, right opposite, that surely strongly resembled her favourite maid. What course was she, then, to adopt in order to discover the accuracy of her thoughts? How could she manage to be positive regarding Marjorie's appearance? She felt it almost miraculous to identify her who trod so far beneath her heightened gaze. Every day she resolved to mount the window at the same hour, believing her constant watching might through time convince her who the subject of her anxiety might be. Why would she be noticed just by staring out the window? That doesn't... And presumably everyone in the house would know. You know, they wouldn't just be like, hey man, where's your wife? She's gone forever. It's been almost a year. I haven't seen her ever, at all. You'd think.
Yeah. I don't know how... I don't know how he's been able to get away with it unless John's been feeding his house staff lies this entire time.
She's dead. But the distance between them remained the same, and ended with the same disappointing result. A thought at last crowned her precious efforts. She fancied if she could succeed in breaking one of the small window panes, she could, with the aid of a telescope found in one of the drawers, define exactly who the maid might chance to be. The same hour each day found the eager mistress and anxious maid in their respective places, the former mounted on the window-sill, the latter gazing pitifully towards the window of her mistress's hateful cell. But discernment was altogether impossible for Lady Dunfern, who was resolved not to be baffled much longer in ascertaining who the constant visitor was. Snapping from her finger an exquisite diamond ring, and studying which pane of glass would be least noticed, she arrived at the wise conclusion of extracting the lowest corner pane, which she cleverly and effectually succeeded in doing. Wondering first of all how she would hide the opening from the cute eyes of her who proved her only visitor, she placed her fleecy wrap carelessly against it, and resuming her seat, was persuaded fully to believe she had successfully accomplished the first step to her freedom. I think she was trying to say acute eye? The
Maybe.
Cute eye. One of
know,
her eyes is real cute.
Yeah. Probably.
She's evil, but she's got a cute eye.
Yeah.
Rachel now...
Yeah, yeah, knowing how quick Amanda is to, like, slam Irene, you know, I don't think she's being positive.
Oh, no, she's talking about Rachel.
Oh, no, I mean...
The cute eye. Who proved her only visitor. That's Rachel.
Oh, right, okay. That's the only thing we know about her.
Yeah, she's got a cute eye. Rachel, arriving now with luncheon, failed to notice, or if noticed, to mention the article in the window. Next day, with great confidence, Lady Dunfern was found in her usual recess, and drawing forth the telescope, viewed keenly the object of her constant search, and to her wild delight, she at once beheld Marjorie Mason, with grave face, staring, she fancied, at her. At last her ladyship had achieved a mighty work indeed, which she hoped would yet prove of more practical importance. It may be mentioned that Marjorie Mason visited the same plot of ground at the same hour every available morning, since she was robbed of the pleasures of waiting on her mistress, merely to get a glimpse of the window she knew must belong to her. Belonged to her ladyship's haunt of hardship. Ugh. And could honest Marjorie have been the only... Okay, let me try that again. And could honest Marjorie have only seen the handkerchief that every day was pointed to its little transparent enclosures, how she would so gladly have waved hers in return. But other means had to be resorted to. Through Lady Dunfern's great perspicacity, to try to establish a line of communication with one she could trust. This being now arrived at cast a world of... What? Okay. This, being now arrived at, cast a world of grief from the mind of her who, under such a roof of suspense as that beneath which she existed, felt if aid were not forthcoming, she would shortly have to yield to the imperative command of the king of conquering divines. So there should have been some commas back there. It should have been this, comma, being now arrived at, comma, but nothing. Who could... What?
I was just agreeing.
Who could now recognize the southern beauty of Dilworth Castle? Who could visit the once beautiful bride of Dunfern Mansion without naturally betraying signs of heartfelt sorrow? She who so often graced the assemblies of the proud and famous, she who adorned society with her majestic presence, she who, by her charming mother and elegant manner and I can't read today, and I don't know why. She who, by her charming manner and elegant bearing, failed not to steal the affection of him who treated her so, was an object of abject commiseration where her conduct wasn't questioned. She was no longer the cheerful associate, the bright converser, the lively, robust Irene Iddesleigh. She, the pride of her guardians, the once adored of her husband, the envied object of socialism, must bear to exist, though by any means within her power, not where she existed presently. The next part to be enacted was to attract Marjorie's attention. This could easily be tried in tying her cambric square firmly round the top of a small poker. She timidly sent it through the cavity, at the same time viewing Marjorie by means of her telescope. At first Marjorie seemed to shade her eyes with her hand and move a little forward, then suddenly stop. She would again move slightly nearer to the wafting emblem of despair, and quickly advancing until she neared the spot where best the snowy sign could be seen, instantly concluded that she must be observed by her ladyship. I'm sorry, can you take over? Oh, no, there's only 2 sentences. No, wait. Yeah, no, there's a lot left. Could you take over? I can't read right now. I keep going bleh.
Okay.
What?
So we've taken like 2 huge paragraphs to this tortuous lead up to Marjorie Mason taking notice of Irene.
Yep.
God, there's so much superfluous detail in there.
When Lady Dunfern.
When Lady Dunfern perceived that Marjorie could by no means be closer to her, she pulled the flag of victory back, leaving her maid in breathless confusion, never for an instant flinching until she might again have an opportunity of rendering her assistance whom she worshipped. Like, oh,
God.
what? In less than 5 minutes, another signal appeared through the open space in the form of a small piece of paper, the meaning of which Marjorie knew well. It appeared to be making its way with wonderful alacrity towards her, who now was in nervous despair, lest she should be detected by her master, or some of the other members of his staff. At last the missive reached its destination, and, wildly grasping it, Marjorie loosed the cord that was swiftly drawn back, and plainly written by her mistress's hands were the words, "To Marjorie, my trusted maid." Shrieking with delight, she pushed the note into her pocket, and speedily hastening to the mansion, entered her own room, securing the door from within. She instantly tore asunder the cover, and read with tearful eyes as follows. Wow, she really likes Irene. I'm glad someone in this story does.
Shrieks with delight.
You know, I'm just imagining her like getting there, like ee, and scurrying away,
hiding under the covers
like
of her room,
like an anime fan or something. Room number 10. Dearest Marjorie and friend, you at last have proof of the confidence reposed in you by me. Just say
believe
I
in
trust
me
you
that
to
believes
read
in you.
this. Yeah, like how I have thought of you since I was severed from you. No one knows. Oh, oof, are you having an affair with her? Now? Come on, Irene. That you have been aware of my imprisonment, I can no longer doubt. However, I shall not presently give you any particulars, but beg to say that if you could by any means you thought safe, let me hear if you have ever received any letters for me from Oscar. I should ever feel grateful and reward you accordingly. My reason for such inquiry I shall explain further on. Dear Marjorie, keep this dark. Might I suggest that you slip a note under my door this evening at 5 o'clock precisely? This you can do, I believe, at this hour with safety. Trusting you are keeping strong, and hoping soon to thank you personally for such secret kindness, believe me, sincerely yours, Irene. To Marjorie. That's...
Wow.
So nothing about busting her out. Just, oh, do you have any letters from my lover?
Yeah, can you pick up my
it's
mail?
Yeah, that's essentially what it amounts to. Like, yo, I'm being kidnapped by my crazy husband, but can you, like, get my mail from the mailroom or something?
I mean, that's like saying, hey, could you feed my fish?
Right, like, you're fucking kidnapped. Your like, I get it, it's not going to be easy for a servant to break you out, but that should be your first priority. Self-preservation, but no, you're just still watery-eyed over your lover, which, like, again, I understand, but sort yourself out. This note was ample explanation of the confidence Lady Dunfern had in her maid. You've already said that, you said it in the letter, don't need to say it again. She well knew from previous experience how she could trust her, and felt assured she was not a victim to misplaced confidence. You said that already in the previous sentence and in the note. Come on, move on.
Before then.
Marjorie would sooner have suffered death than betray her whom she had served so long at Dilworth Castle, and so short a time at Dunfern Mansion, and carefully folding the note she held in her hand, proceeded to reply.
So she's been locked up for like a year now. And I'm wondering, why did it take this long for her to do anything?
Yeah, like, if you had, I don't know, like... Yeah, was it just that she didn't notice before? That Irene didn't notice her out there before? Or is it just that Irene didn't think to, like, get help from anyone in particular, before this time? Didn't think to try and chip the window open? Because apparently if it was so easy to remove the window, and so easy to go undetected, she could have tried, approaching someone for help ages ago, and yet it took a year for this.
Also, there's a gun on the door. On the wall, rather. There's a gun hanging on the wall. Why doesn't she just threaten her way out?
I don't know. I mean, the only reason I can think of is that John Dunfern took it out before securing her in there, but Amanda doesn't make any mention of that because she's a bad storyteller, so we don't know.
It's Chekhov's gun.
Chekhov's piece of shit.
No, I like Chekhov.
Lady Dunfern.
I like Chekhov.
What? No, I mean...
Yeah, I know.
I was... Lady Dunfern, at the hour appointed, stood in agony behind the massive door, underneath which she soon felt sure of receiving news that would either increase or diminish her varied stock of fears. Just say she'd either receive good or bad news. Nor was she disappointed. At the very hour referred to, the note appeared. Who could picture the ecstatic relief of Lady Dunfern as she paced her prison floor whilst carefully scanning the contents of Marjorie's note? Well, we have to picture it because you're the fucking storyteller.
So she's scuttling around.
In it, she stated that her husband received all letters direct, not alone for himself, but for all his servants, and delivered them personally to each. This only happening since she was subject to his cruel treatment. So you're finally admitting that what's happening here is cruel.
Yeah, and he's stealing people's mail.
Stealing people's mail! Stealing people's mail! Stealing people's mail! Stealing people's mail!
You won't get done for copyright for using such a quick sample. Lady Dunfern was a little surprised at not receiving through Marjorie some news of Oscar, but when informed of her husband being the recipient of all letters, she felt confident his were amongst the many of his inspection, and would not therefore aid his aspect of matters much. I couldn't understand that fucking sentence. Safely depositing the prayed-for epistle of Marjorie in her drawer... It's a fucking note.
Yeah.
She seemed to suddenly grow quite cheerful and animated, so much so that Rachel, on entering some short time afterwards, was so struck with the change as to acknowledge that her ladyship must surely appreciate the book she held in her hand to an extraordinary extent, since it had altered her demeanour so. Could this
Rachel's an idiot.
Could this attendant only have known the true nature of Lady Dunfern's much changed manner, how, with a conquering air, she would so soon have conveyed the tidings to Sir John. This, however, was not to be. Lady Dunfern believed that such a line of intercourse, as that which she had so artfully managed with one on whom she could ever place implicit confidence, must surely yet be the remains... must surely yet be the means of freeing her from the fetters of a fierce and prejudiced race. Every morning at the same hour, mistress and maid were at their respective posts, the former with brightened eye mounted on her favourite pedestal of triumphant account and gazing intently on the object of rescue, the latter casting that grave and careworn look in the direction of the niched sideboard of distress, stood firmly and faithfully until she received the watchword of action and warning. I couldn't understand any of those last two paragraphs.
No, that's yikes.
So,
thank you for picking up on the writing, though. I don't know why I couldn't.
you are flopping about all over the place.
I know, it's awful. I'm sorry.
It's okay. So to summarize the last two chapters, Sir John is a dirty boy.
He's a psycho.
Psycho, groupie, cocaine crazy. Makes you high, makes you high. Makes you really want to think and stop. I'm stalling while I look for where we started reading. That was System of a Down song. For the uninitiated. You're welcome. So, John's been sifting through through Irene's stuff. That's confirmed. And brings that to Irene. And before Irene can respond, she just goes, oh, I'm dying. Oh, he just collapses, and then they both take weeks to feel better. Which is just Amanda wasting our fucking time.
I know, there was no reason for that to happen.
Yeah, there's no payoff within the chapters that we've read. There's no need for it. That's the thing. She always says, "Oh, so much time passed," and there's never any payoff to it. She's just trying to establish. Yeah, she's trying to establish a narrative through line, but it just comes off as really boring. So Irene's never given the chance to explain herself and to forgive, to plead forgiveness. Dunfern doesn't want to discuss it and work through his feelings because he's a disgusting man.
He locked her up in the murder room.
Locked her up in the murder room. And then she just sits there for a year before getting a maid to help her out.
Yeah.
And
because at first she doesn't even care. That's the weird thing. She doesn't care, and then she's like, "Oh, I care now."
Yeah, it's strange that it took this long for her to decide that she wanted to leave. It's like, if you're so in love with this Oscar Otwell guy, you would have tried to get out a lot sooner. So presumably they're going to come up with a plan for escape. I'm assuming that's what those last two paragraphs meant, because I couldn't decipher any of that while I was reading it. I was focusing on trying to get through much respect to you for reading all of this previously, because the sentence construction is fucking abominable.
Oh, yeah. I mean, because both of us are pretty good at reading, so it doesn't... You'd think it wouldn't be a problem.
It's a combination of, archaic writing and just bad construction.
Mm-hmm. It's really just
and another surprise character introduction, Marjorie Mason.
Yeah, who the hell is this?
I feel like she could be a fucking Marvel superhero. Marvel superhero.
Yeah. That alliteration.
Yeah, it's Irene Iddesleigh could be too. Probably not. No, it's not American enough.
No.
But yeah, just a lot of waffle to hit those narrative checkpoints.
Mm-hmm.
So we have this Marjorie Mason, who apparently was super besties with Irene Iddesleigh, and we didn't know, because it's only convenient for us to know when Amanda McKittrick-Ross tells us it is.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that concludes chapter 11. That concludes this. So we have like narrative tension. We've got drama. We've got kidnapping. We've got poor relationship dynamic. We've got a child. We've got a conspicuously absent child. You know, we've like Irene doesn't give a shit about the child. That's another thing I noticed. We come to the end of it. I mean, why should she? It was a product of, Dirty Boy Dunfern.
Obligation. Yeah.
But by the same token, we've got no word from how that's being looked after. It's just a throwaway, like, oh, I know it's being looked after. Like, it'll be fine.
Yeah, like, they'll care for it. It's not a problem.
Just.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. That's incredible.
God. We're both exhausted now. Come to the end.
I know, but I'm astounded that, like, something actually happened.
Yeah, like, it wasn't just...
And not only that, but it was a fucking crazy thing that happened.
Yeah, we've gone from, like, overlong descriptions of ridiculously rich accommodations,
to the death room!
Yeah, to, like, an unnecessary account of this heretofore unmentioned room, and how it was, and how people died in it, and how he was gonna put fucking Irene in there. Like, we spent, that was the overlong description that we had. That was, I mean, because we couldn't get away with not having any of it. Like,
no, that's...
But no,
that's
drama,
amazing.
intrigue, like a real fucking curveball, because we've gone from, like, romance drama to actual drama, which is,
It's a refreshing change,
it's
but
still,
is it a good one?
It's
Probably
still a
not.
shit book, and...
Oh, absolutely.
And John Dunfern's a fucking asshole.
Yep, he's a giant fish baby.
He's a giant fish baby.
Of course he's an asshole.
A giant fish baby with a death room.
Yeah, like... the fuck, dude? Who has a death room? That's what I want to know. I mean, if you were to sell a house like that, you would have to sell it at a lower price because it's a murder house.
Maybe that's...
Like, that's...
Maybe
the fuck?
My headcanon is that, like, all the Dilworth's property were just all made out of murder rooms, and therefore the value of the property was really low, and that's why they were paupers after selling all of their rich houses.
Because all their rooms were death rooms.
That's my headcanon now. That's the only explanation for why they were paupers after selling all of their castles.
Oh. Like, how much did they owe? Holy shit. My god.
So that's that disaster over with. So
yeah, but that's,
So that's that disaster over with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so next week we're just going to be doing chapter 12 by itself, because that's the longest chapter.
It's a fucking doozy of a chapter. I just scrolled down to... Yeah, just to get a glance of it, and yeah.
Yeah, it's a big one.
No way. No way.
So that's going to get its own week. What?
No, I'd said I finished.
Oh, yeah. So that's going to be next time. And for now, I think we're going to wrap up. So be sure to, like, subscribe, all that other good stuff. Tell your friends, tell the Pope.
Yep, we're on Tumblr, we're on archive.org, we're on YouTube. Appropriate links in the description for each of those.
Yeah, well, we don't have a Tumblr just for this.
Maybe we should, just as a place to...
We could, but I mean...
Just
yeah, okay.
As another place to keep it uploaded, just a place to aggregate the YouTube links.
Alright. Yeah, we could do
discussing podcast business on the air. I still think we should work on an RSS feed.
Alright. But yeah, so see you next week. Have a great time.
This has been Holy Moses Take a Look. And until next week, goodbye. And read some good books.
Bye.